So thank you for that. And I'm really thrilled to be here today. When I picked up the assignment from Matthew to come and join you, I thought, what do you need to know about management? What do you need to know about leadership? How can I be helpful there? As Matthew said, I run this little business where I parachute into nonprofits and try to help them during transitions. But I thought, let me try to boil it down to what I think the essence is of leadership. Great organizations. So this is what I'm going to try to cover today, right? Why does it matter? What makes an organization great? And we certainly got a little bit of a wonderful setup on that from the chief. What is organizational leadership, and how do you run the operations? Now that's our agenda. Let's see. So a friend of mine said, start with some humor. And you know, obviously the chief and I are cut from the same cloth, because here you go. This is a favorite of mine and also a favorite of the EMTs in my personal life and the psychotherapists. Lassie, get help. So for those at home, I don't know if you can see, it's 2 panels. Someone is drowning. There's a dog at the side looking noble. The drowning person says, Lassie, get help. And then you see Lassie is getting help from a therapist. Not exactly the ambulance model, but help. All right. So what kind of organizations do you all belong to? I will bet you that each of you has a minimum of 5 things that are part of your personal, business, social, family life. I've listed a few of them. Church, business, a political party, a sports team, a club, professional organization, a pet owners group, you know, everyone with a dachshund. Oops, I think Matthew has 2 of those. Board of directors. What other organizations are you part of other than EMS that I didn't list up there? What else? Shout out. School. My husband this morning said to me, fraternities, sororities. What else? Where do you spend your volunteer time that isn't on an ambulance? Fire department? Something, what? Model airplanes. Is it a group? Yeah, okay. Okay. What makes the organizations that you know great? What makes them great? Think about your model airplane group. Think about all the places you spend your time. What's the essence of, why do you go home at night and say to your partner, oh my God, I'm part of the most wonderful organization? Is it any of these things? Do they make money? Do they help others? Are they getting public recognition, getting written up in the New York Times? They seem to be where the action is, right? We all know organizations that are constantly being mentioned and talked about. The people who participate love it. You come home and say, I love it. I'm so proud to wear that patch. I'm so proud to have that secret handshake, whatever the thing is that identifies you as a member of that group. Or just your experiences in positive. What else makes an organization great? Can you think of things? Maybe I got it all. Okay. Do those apply to nonprofits? Because those of you in the nonprofit EMS world, you're working on behalf of nonprofits delivering service. So obviously they don't make money. Money has to be produced in some way to fund the operations, but you're not there to make money. It's not like a business that you work in, day out. But you help others, you're recognized publicly, maybe not enough. And I, think of the chief's remarks about that 90% who are just silently in the trenches doing their work, getting recognition. And maybe the nonprofits that you work for are just doing good work regardless of the challenges. Maybe none of those things are as important as that last bullet. So now that we have some working theories about what makes an organization great, what's great about what you do for that organization? What makes the role that you play significant as an individual, as a member of the group itself, or as a larger construct, which is sort of what we're here today to think about, right? The larger construct that each of you is a part of. Is there some strength in numbers? So you all could be in an ambulance corps serving your local community. What makes you want to affiliate is the sort of term of art I like, with others. What is in it for you to be part of the larger group? What makes EMS access appealing, for example? Anyone got some thoughts? Networking, excellent. Shared experiences, which help everybody learn, right? Also good for morale. Yeah. Best practices. Excellent. Right. I mean, on your ambulance with your team, you can train, but isn't it even more exciting to think of training across ambulances, across communities? You're seeing that in your community. I'm seeing that in my community, but it's a little different. I'm seeing younger people calling for service. I'm seeing older volunteers. So affiliating has some real value. And there are some of the things we thought of: morale, exchange of ideas, cross coverage. I have this real vivid sense, which I hadn't had before today, of what it was like to do what you all do during the pandemic, particularly the first year of the all hands on deck, the cross coverage, the camaraderie, the learning from differences, able to be more effective. I mean, it's hard for me to imagine what the positives are that were gained from the pandemic. They're probably not positives that you sought out. You didn't look to learn more and deepen that camaraderie and deepen the morale. It wasn't what you got up in the morning to do. You got up in the morning to survive and help other people survive. But I suspect when you look back at this period, you'll think, yeah, but we got better at what we do. And we helped other volunteers get better at what they do. So we talked a bit about organizations. Let's talk about a team, because at least as what I understand from EMS Access, you're each a member of a small team, that ambulance, that company, and now you're thinking about this affiliation in a larger group. So what's a team? It's a type of organization, but if you think of EMS Access or the fire department or city EMS, that's a larger organization that has teams within it. So the team is the crew, the players on the field working together. The organization is the larger entity that the teams can fit into. And by being here on a bright and early Saturday morning, you've said, I want to fit into that larger thing. I can see the value, as we discussed earlier. And so then the question becomes, it's easier to know who's leading the team. How do you know who's leading the organization? So then let's talk about leadership. These are some quotes I like, and I've cited the place I got them. Leadership is involved and engaged. And, you know, Exhibit A is our chief here, involved and engaged. Effective leaders exhibit innovation, vision, inner values, inspiration, communication. Leaders demonstrate an understanding for the big picture, but also the operational details that make or break an organization. We're going to talk more about that because the experts don't completely agree about whether the leader is the visionary, big picture, the person who really sets out the agenda. Does that mean they don't have to think about the operation? Does that mean the budget doesn't matter, recruitment doesn't matter, training, someone else will do those things? Or are they also in charge of all the smaller parts? And I would say it's a perfect Venn diagram. You know, there's an overlap, but great leaders have to also think about the operations. So what do we expect of leaders? Take a look at this list and see if it matches your expectation of yourselves in leadership positions, or of people to whom you report, the leaders to whom you respond. Expect them to build relationships, develop people. This is based on a huge amount of research by the Gallup. You've heard about Gallup polls. This is the Gallup organization. Build relationships, develop people, lead change, inspire others, think critically, communicate clearly, and you're going to see communicate in a couple of slides to come, because nothing really matters if you can't communicate it. If you can't get the word out one way or another, you can have the best ideas in the world. But if you can't get it out there and convey it, it's not going to work all that well. Create accountability. What else? What else do we expect of our leaders? Think big. Think about the President of the United States. Think about the leader in your family. Think about the head of your kid's school. What do you expect of them? What else? Lead by example. That's a great one. What else? Strong standards that they sort of personally exhibit. There's a lovely meld between those two. That's right. Understand the differences that you see in others. They can't all be like you. It would not be a great world if everyone were alike, right? Right. We communicate differently. We take up leadership differently, and need to celebrate those differences. What else? Say again, I'm sorry? Promote a sense of security. That's a great one. People need to feel that they're being taken care of, that they're safe, that they're protected, that you will tell them what they need to know. Strong sense of organization. Say more about that. What do you mean? You have to get the sense that they know what they're doing. That also plays to the feeling secure. You feel better, when the pilot gets on the plane and starts communicating with the passengers and says, there's gonna be some turbulence ahead, but this is what we're doing. I'm gonna bank to the left a little bit, and you'll be about 5 minutes and we'll be clear. You think to yourself, all right, this person knows what they're doing. I'm safe. They've got it under control. They've got the details. I'm gonna be okay. Dedication. It's a good one. Make it happen. Right. So there's sort of two things implicit in what you're saying. There's confidence, right? You want your leader to exhibit some degree of confidence. I know how to get from New York to Pittsburgh. I've been on this route before. I know how to do it. And then the ability to convey that.
We want confident, we also want someone humble. So not just going to sit up in their high chair, but also get engaged with their employees.
So we're going to talk a little bit more about a piece that's implicit in what you both just said in a couple of slides, because there's a difference and there are some differing experts in the field about how much hands-on management a leader should do versus the big picture. So keep that in mind as we go forward, because yes, you certainly need some humility. You need the ability to produce to lead, right? But how much do you need to lay hands on each piece to be the leader? Can someone do both? So hold on to that thought. Right. So the leader has to kind of know their place. It's a little bit like the 90-10 thing we heard earlier. You need to know which problems need your attention and which problems other people can and should attend to. And if they're not attending to them, you need to figure out why not and get that. Because the 90% issues need to be dealt with too, but maybe not by the leader. These are great points. Yeah, both of you.
No, well, I was just going to say, much of that point of the discussion with small organization. A lot of times people this is like one of my other things that I have to do. And so if you're in a position to make something happen, not get the support, if it's just a matter of but at what point do you say, well, this thing is going, if I don't do this, it's going to be fun. So at what point do you say, these other responsibilities.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, and how do you create that balance between that and the one-man show versus. That's a big mission. I don't know. There's some people who
It
have
is.
to control everything.
Right.
But I think among volunteers, a lot of times you find it's like, you know, they become Jackson Hole trained. Circumstance, but it's just not going to get done.
I think you raise a really good issue. And I think the only way to answer it truthfully is to say there are times you have to be capable of doing both. And great leaders can pivot. They can pivot from the big picture to the details when they need to, and then pivot back up to the big picture. There's a crisis, it's all hands on deck. It doesn't really matter whose title is what. Everybody's going to do what needs to get done. And the next day you return to, I'm in charge, I'm managing this operation, I'm setting the vision. If you do it all the time, I think you're not enabling the people whom you are supposed to be leading to take up their roles. I have a little management adage. I do a lot of coaching and teaching of new executive directors in nonprofits. And one of the things I say is, and it's kind of crude, you need to do the things that only you can do, right? If somebody else could be doing it, why are you doing it? And if it's because they're not able to do it, well, what do they need to be able to do it? Or maybe they just can't do it and you need to move on. First, you need to invest and see and scratch the surface of why they can't do it. And then maybe you need to replace them or move them elsewhere in the organization or help them exit. But if you're going to do it all, you're not going to be very good at any of it. And you're certainly not going to be able to rise up to the real leadership role that only you can do. So temporarily, one of the projects I'm working on now is at a large preschool and early intervention project in Brooklyn. And there was a day when I brought the lunch into each classroom and made sure the kids got fed. And is that really my job? And they're paying me as a consultant to feed the kids lunch? No, but there really wasn't anyone else to do it. And there was a crisis and the kids need to have lunch. And I'm capable in a kitchen, especially because we order the food. It's all pre-packaged. It's just a matter of making sure the nut-free one goes to the nut-free and the banana-free room. We have a banana-free room. The banana-free room goes to the, making sure it happens, making sure the teachers have what they need, that they have a minute to eat, that the kids are okay. But am I going to do that regularly? No, because that would be a mistake. I'm missing something that's not working well if I end up having to do lunch for the kids every day. There's something in the organization that I, as the leader, need to fix so that those tasks go to the right place. And then I can go back up. And I learned something from doing it. I learned a lot. It was actually a great thing for me to do. But if I'm doing it regularly, I'm kind of missing the boat on my responsibilities. Thank goodness I have Matthew moving me. I think he's going to get a cane and yank me off stage. Leaders make other people great. So anyone heard of Kip Hawley? Because I hadn't. But he helped set up the TSA. And in 3 years, they had 4 administrators. He was the 4th, and he died recently. This is from his obituary. And what I thought was extraordinary is he is absolutely beloved, was beloved as a leader. The things that were said about him at his funeral, I aspired to be beloved and valued the way he was. So these are some of the things he did that you can read. But the thing I want to really call your attention to is that last point. They had a hallway with all of the heads of the organization, big portraits of them, like you see in the White House, all the presidents, and you see in universities, all the presidents. And he didn't want his portrait hung. He put a mirror up there instead. Why do you think that is? What was he getting at by not putting his portrait up and putting a mirror up? But people see their own leadership. My husband, being snarky last night when I was running the slides with him, said he liked his own face. He wanted to see himself. I think it was just the opposite. And I think you both just hit on it. He wanted everyone to be celebrated. Why him? Why me? Why should I stand up and show off? Aren't we all part of the leadership team? So I kind of love that. Why does it matter? John Maxwell, another interesting guy, published more business books, leadership books, brilliant, 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 happens to be a pastor. An ordained minister, has had many pulpits in his life, but he has written some really wonderful stuff, and I love this. The pessimist, oh, typo, Margo. The pessimist complains about the wind, the optimist expects it to change, the leader adjusts the sails. Managers, and what's the difference? And I'm gonna go a little faster here so that there's time for questions. We talked about leadership and strategic vision. Managers getting things done, though sometimes the leader has to step in and get stuff done. And are these lines blurred? So what's a great manager? I love this from Harvard Business Review of all places. Average managers play checkers. Great managers play chess. So think about the sort of three-dimensionality of a chess game and the need to see all those moves ahead. Average managers, you can see one move ahead, you get it done, you look around, you assess, but a great manager does all that. So one of the things that these slides tell me is leadership's super important, but so is management, right? You can't really have a great organization without both. And by the way, tolerate disruption. Is that not like the lesson of the last 2 years? The folks who really showed their management capacity and their leadership are folks who could tolerate the huge amount of disruption from normal operating procedures over the last 2+ years. Here's some common traits of great managers. This is from a group called Culture Amp. There's that communicator piece again. And again, you need to have a clear strategy for the team. Hopefully the overall strategy and the big picture vision is being set by the leader. But here's where the manager pitches in. I like this. Leaders set the vision, managers follow it. Leaders think ideas, managers think execution. Can you see those roles in your individual core? Do you see somebody setting the vision and somebody figuring out, I know exactly how to implement that. I know how to get it done. And if this doesn't work, we're going to go do this, this, and this. Do you see those? Now, sometimes it is all in one place, but hopefully you have different people with different skill sets who can deliver the big picture vision and then the execution. So this is, I think, what we talked about today. And I hope that works for all of you. But now I really want to take questions about what I've said today, about jumping into nonprofits when they're experiencing transition. How can I be helpful? Oh, and wait, there's one more, because I figure I should end with humor too.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Margo.
Pleasure.
What certainly resonated with me quickly before we open it up was the I think it's a book I think I read in Traction. It's like get it, want it, and have the capacity to do it. And they have to understand the job. They have the time to do that job. And just hearing about some of these things, I think really we all sort of understand about working with others. All right, so I'll open up the floor to any questions. And if anyone raise your hand. Oh, perfect.
Thank you for that wonderful presentation. I'm curious, in your existence, in your role, is there a common thread that causes CEOs to step down? Is there something that maybe can be predicted and worked on before they have to step down?
What a great question. I generally see the question was, is there any pattern that you can discern of what makes CEOs step down from nonprofits? There seem to be two things that I see again and again. One is the board and the CEO are not seeing eye to eye. And there's some thrashing it out, and there's some trying to figure out whether that relationship works. And at the end of the day, someone's got to go, and it's not going to be the board. And sometimes the CEO quits, or sometimes they're fired, but you can, and they'll each tell you stories about why they left, and it was the right time, and new challenges, and time to bring in different people, and blah, blah, blah. But it often comes down to tensions with the governing body. The second reason is, and I see this a lot in my practice, it wasn't the right hire to begin with. And they've all patched it together for as long as they can. But really, at the end of the day, what they thought they needed was something else. The person either couldn't live up to the expectations or the expectations changed. But often it was just a bad hire. And I've had boards say to me, well, we didn't have great candidates, so we picked the best person we could. And when I hear that, I say, we're not doing that again. We're going to do this search and we're going to do it as fully, and it's going to take as long as it takes. And we're not going to compromise. We're going to hire someone that you're thrilled with. That really is not a compromise situation. It's really somebody who has all the leadership potential that you need. Yes.
So I think one of the realities that we've all faced with our board of directors is that, you start out, the board is doing everything because that's just the way the reality is. And then as you mature, those of us who get it and realize that we need to change the role of the board as opposed to the role of operations or the executive. How do you find the best way to go about doing that?
To begin to build up the professional management and move the board into governance. It depends on what the data are. It depends on whether they've gotten feedback from a CEO that says, you are in my stuff, you gotta stop. This is mine, this is yours. It depends on how they come to the realization. Sometimes you have super enlightened boards who say, we know, we've now been in business for 3 years and we see we're just too over involved. We don't have the time anymore, but the place has gotta move on its own. We need to take a step back and be governance. And we need to fundraise, that's what boards do. We need to hire and fire the CEO, but we need to get back into the box that we originally invented for ourselves. I would say the boards that are that enlightened are occasional, not common. Usually there's some data that comes up that says, okay, there's conflict, there's role confusion, and often they bring me in or a consultant like me to say, all right, let's talk about the role of the board. Let's talk about the role of the staff. In one organization that I was with recently, they were really working hard on diversity, equity, inclusion in the organization. And the staff was all getting trained and the board wasn't getting trained. And the board needed to understand the need for a more equitable organization from their governance perspective. And I needed to sort of move them apart, get the board where they needed, and develop a whole training unit just for them. Because the staff was getting it, but the board needed to get it. And that really helped them find their footing as very different pieces of the organization.
Answered my question as well, but I was just going to ask, how important is education and roles, responsibilities, and accountability?
How important is education, roles, responsibilities for the board, for the team, for the whole organization?
Yeah, overall.
Crucial.
So the way our
One word
organization
answer.
works is we have a board,
Right.
and we have an operations team. I'm not sure about everybody's organization, but some of the members of our operations team sit on our board as well.
Mhm.
So, there's a lot of confusion in that area because since they're board members, they're part of fundraising, but since they're operations, they have to run the day-to-day and the lines get blurred. So, that's why that's where the accountability comes in. But yeah, I just wanted to see your thoughts.
Role descriptions, which you touched on a minute ago, I think are critical. Everybody needs to know their jobs. Everybody needs to know that even when there's intersection, some days I'm on the bus along with you and we're doing the same thing, but I'm also a member of the board. And when I'm saying this as a member of the board. So everyone needs to have a job description. Everyone needs to have sort of metabolized it. And then people, particularly in the kind of intricate, intense situations that you all work in, people have to occasionally say, okay, actually, wait, I'm telling you this as a member of the board. Or, oh, now today I'm the driver and I'm I'm not being a board member when I'm telling you this wearing this hat and this role. And people have to be sort of careful about not letting their roles step on one another's toes. But I think role clarity, understanding of roles, and calling it out when it gets messy is really helpful.
Hey, Margo, thank you so much again for joining us. My question, I'm Mr. Tactical today, trying to, improve everybody's leadership one day at a time. If you had one thing that everyone as a leader should start doing tomorrow to improve their leadership skills, improve their leadership style, serve their members, their customers better, what would be the one thing they could start doing tomorrow?
Whew. Okay. I hesitate to use very current jargon, but there's this concept you read about intentionality. And I would say to be intentional. And by that, I mean, there's a sort of common parlance definition of it, but the way I mean it is to really think and not get sucked in and not get pulled. It's a little bit of what you said, Chief, about listening to the loud voices. Pull back. Think about even how you're going to use your day. Sometimes you look at a day and you think, oh, okay, I have this meeting, this meeting, this meeting, this meeting. I'm going to be running from here to there. And take a minute to think, okay, what do I really want to get accomplished? I'm not just going to be satisfied by my day because I made all those meetings happen and I got from here to there. I really need at these 3 meetings to get this piece done. And I'm the only one who can actually articulate what that piece is and what that meaning is. So I'm going to be super intentional about things. May mean I cancel one of those meetings because actually I shouldn't be there, someone else should, but really not getting sucked in to the wrong stuff, to the loud voices, really intentional in how you use your time and how you work with people. That would be tip of the day.
What steps do you take when you feel as if your board of directors is like basically overstepping their bounds and they're more involved in operations than they should be?
Oh, that's such a great point. So I have a special privilege because I'm an interim CEO. We have an expression we use in my field called "we come pre-fired." We're not trying to keep our jobs. We're trying to come, get done what you need us to get done, get a permanent leader in, and then leave. So we get to say things to boards that they don't normally hear. A CEO who's trying to keep their job is not going to really blast off at a board and say, you have stepped on my toes for the 3rd time this week. Cut it out. I'm in charge of this. You're in charge of that. I decide where the money goes. You have to help me raise it. That's your big job as a board member. But I'm going to put the budget together. You approve it. So there aren't going to be any punches pulled, no secrets. But I get to decide that. And if you don't like how I'm spending our money, you can fire me. Other than that, go away. So I have those conversations with boards. They generally learn it. I have to say it a number of times, and I'm generally there for 6 months, 9 months, a year. I get to really blast off. The next CEO has a much easier time on that because someone has really disrupted that conversation.
What happens to those?
It's very hard. Often what you do is you find a champion on the board who sees it the way you see it. Sometimes it's the chair, sometimes it's not. But you find a board member you can talk to and you give examples of these are the times that the board as a whole or the chair, him or herself or somebody got in the way. And this is what it's doing with the organization. It's demoralizing the staff. It's confusing the funders. The oversight agencies are confused about who they're talking to. These are the costs of doing it the way it's being done. You can talk to the whole board if you think they're amenable. You can talk to the chair. It's great if a chair gets it. They don't usually get it the first time. Sometimes you have to bring it up again and again, but you do it thoughtfully and courteously and with data and examples of what went wrong when that funder just couldn't figure out who was in charge and who they were giving the money to and how it was going to be spent because there was such static between the CEO and the board. But if you can find a board member who will partner with you in that conversation, it's so much more powerful. Yeah. All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Margo.
Pleasure.